My friend is in a covert narcissist relationship and she doesn't see it, but all of her family sees it. How do we approach that? I would recommend chatting with somebody who works professionally with narcissistic abuse because they're going to have a lot more experience and tips on this. I think from my perspective, the analogy that always comes to mind is when somebody is looking directly at the flag, like the red flag is facing them like this, they can't see it. But all the people beside them, they can see that it's a red flag. But until they get a different perspective, they're not going to believe you. No matter how many people are screaming at them from the sidelines, like, look, it's a red flag, they're never going to believe it because they can't see it. And what will often happen is somebody who's narcissistic will begin to isolate and alienate and make everybody else the enemy and say they're all liars, they're all against us. So you start cutting all these people out and becoming so isolated that you never have the ability to step to the side or see another perspective. Isolation is an abuser's best friend, right? So I would do my best not to push too hard against this person because they're just going to see you as the enemy, that you're trying to bring down their relationship, and they're going to choose their relationship over your relationship a lot of the time. That's just how it goes. It's very sad. So I would try and be as supportive as possible and then try and include them in things that kind of get them out of their isolation. Keep them from getting isolated. Invite them to go do fun things together and make sure that they're doing things that they enjoy and that make them feel confident about themselves, right? And one day they're going to be able to see the truth for what it is, hopefully. Is an intervention a positive approach to save our sister from a covert narcissist? I don't think so. An intervention is going to seem like the whole world is against you. And honestly, a lot of times abusive people are already poisoning that person against everybody already. And often they will choose the abuser versus all the people who truly care about them. And that will alienate all the people that are supposed to be your support system. You're going to see them as all people who are out to get you in your relationship. People, you can only bring a horse to water, right? If you try and like force their head underwater, they're going to think that you're trying to drown them. So yeah, like I would definitely check out some other advice from some other abuse specialists and psychologists who help people in these situations and have a lot more experience than me. But just based on observation and what I've seen in my life, that is what I think would be the best route. This is one of the things that we get into a lot in modern relationships, especially with social media. We can see the pinnacle of success in every single aspect of our lives, and it does kind of make us sometimes a little bit unrealistic of what we think that our life is going to achieve and what we think we deserve, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to be careful with that because I think a lot of people sell themselves short and don't actually believe in themselves. And I really do believe that people can achieve a lot more than they really believe that they can. So I don't want to shoot people down either, because sometimes we think we want all of these things for the wrong reasons as well, right? That's why it's really interesting to talk to people, because everybody's different. Sometimes we think like, oh, I need to achieve this and succeed that and make millions and be a millionaire by the time I'm 40 years old, et cetera, and have this life and have that. And sometimes we're doing that from a place of we're not feeling enough, and we're trying to perform, and we're trying to be good enough, and we're trying to prove our parents wrong, and we're trying to feel safe. Maybe we grew up with financial instability, so now we are overcorrecting, and so we need to overachieve financially, when actually we would totally be happy when our needs are met, the bills are paid, the kids can have all the opportunities that they want. Like, we're doing okay, and you'd be okay with that. But I can't decide what people really want for themselves. There are people who genuinely would want to just sell everything and go live Little House on the Prairie style. Go live off the grid. There are people that genuinely want to do that. And that's cool. And then there's people who literally think that they need to have a Lamborghini in order to be happy. That's cool too. But just kind of getting down to the root of where that's coming from for you if this is truly a part of your core value system, why you want it, what type of life that you want to have. And then that's going to help you really choose the right people that are going to align in that same direction with you. Thanks again, Stephanie, for the questions. Good questions. And thanks for the gifts as well. How to trust again if you are with a toxic person. How to trust again if you were in a toxic relationship. I would say the biggest thing is you just have to build trust for yourself, because a lot of times that's what the problem is you don't trust yourself anymore. You chose wrong. You were wrong. So now you can't trust you. You can't trust your own ability to make decisions and choose people. So now you're somebody who is not worth trusting. So then I would take a look at the other areas of my life and ask myself, do I trust myself in other areas either? Wow, I don't trust myself with anything. I can't even get out of bed on time when I say I'm going to. I don't show up on time when I say I'm going to. My yes does not mean yes, and my no does not mean no. I'm actually I'm quite an untrustworthy person, so this makes sense. So then it's just you have to build trust with yourself. You have to build trust with yourself. What do I think about the soft men era guys going 50-50 with women on dates and bill? I think most of it is jokes. Most of it is jokes. If you go on a date with a man, 9 times out of 10, he's going to pay for that date. As the relationship continues on, yes, women are going to contribute more, typically in most relationships. In the modern world where women are making incomes and often out earning men, this is the new world. Back in the day, women didn't work. Men were the only ones with money, so men had to pay 100% of the time. But that does not really exist in the world today. The whole soft guy era thing, though, it is just satire. It's guys taking pretty much paraphrasing exactly to verbatim of what women have been making videos about and getting praised for, and all these women being like, yes, queen, know your standards, know your worth, you deserve princess treatment, sprinkle, sprinkle. So guys are just taking the exact same script and saying it. And women are losing their minds like it's the worst thing that they've ever heard in their lives. Yeah, men are human too. But we have to be okay, and accept women acting in a way that women would never accept from men. I like how you honor both genders without having to put either down. Yeah, we both have pros and cons. We both have strengths and weaknesses. And there are some generalized things that men typically lean towards, and there are some things that women typically lean towards, but we have to appreciate our differences. I don't get it. Any woman who sees men in a really negative light can't have a healthy relationship with a man. Any man who sees women through a really negative lens can't have a healthy relationship with a woman. It's that simple. The way that so many guys talk about women on the internet, those guys can't be with healthy women. The only women that they can be with are women who are complete doormats, right? The analogy I use because it's really harsh, because it gets the point across, is race. For example, if someone really does not like black people and speaks very negatively about black people, can they have a healthy relationship with a black person? No, they can't. The only kind of relationship they'd be able to have with a black person is master and slave. And that is the exact thing that happens in romantic relationships. If there is a man who sees women as these inferior beings, he has to be in a position of master and servant. She's the servant, he's the master. Same thing for women who think of men as awful, whatever. She has to be in the position of master, and he's going to be her servant. So she can only align with soy boys and guys who just jump through hoops and simps and doormats and yes men, because that's all she can align with. But women don't really like those types of guys, so that's why a lot of those women stay completely single forever. If a woman acknowledges that she's fiery but expects you to handle her emotions, what would I say? Me personally, I don't have a whole ton of space for immature regulation, right? It's one thing to be passionate and fiery and to bring things up and to feel things deeply. It's another thing to act on emotions and have negative consequences for those actions. You can feel some type of way and not act on it, right? If you are just controlled by your emotions, yeah, okay, well, we could have left that back when we were like 7, you know? Yeah, I get it. You got big emotions. It's okay to feel all your range of emotions, but you don't get to take those out on me and act like I'm your pincushion. Not happening. I said that and she said I can't handle her. Yeah, I wouldn't want to, right? A quarrelsome wife. It's better for a man to live on the corner of a roof than in the house with a quarrelsome wife. That is a verse from the Bible. So she needs to project that on you and act like you're the one who can't handle it when it's actually she can't handle her own business. That is her responsibility, but she's expecting you to do it. And so then she needs to blame you for it so she doesn't have to change. So she doesn't actually have to do the work. So she doesn't actually have to go into the things that where all of these emotions are coming from, to the root of them, because she probably isn't at the root of why she is so emotionally dysregulated, because it's probably coming from some childhood stuff that's pretty heavy and hurtful and painful. And so it's much easier to just blame men. Men can't handle me. Men can't handle me. Men can't. No. Go to therapy. We all have stuff to unpack and it hinders our growth as adults. Yeah, we do all have stuff to unpack. But those things also make us really unique as well. Which is interesting. I think it's what gives us these really unique recipes for our relationships. Because of my childhood and the things that I've had to unpack, it makes me stronger in certain ways and weaker in other ways. And being in relationships and around people and friendships and family where I can kind of lean into the things that I'm strong at and they can help me out with the things that I'm weak at. That's what relationships are about. And if we were all just perfect, then what would be left? There's always more to learn. There's always more to grow. There's always more to unpack and see about ourselves. And I think sometimes we spend a little bit too much time unpacking. We're always unpacking. We're always unpacking. We're always unpacking. And we're forgetting to actually set up our home in the way that we'd want to. So we just got this big mess on the floor, and we're always just trying to walk on eggshells around all of these things that we've unpacked and just left all over the place. It's like, oh yeah, well, I have this issue. Well, I just have this issue and I just can't do this. And I just that. Stop it. Stop unpacking stuff. Start putting stuff away and start working on some of the things that to work into your strengths. Find something. Oh yeah, actually that's something that I really like about myself. And then lean into that thing that you like about yourself. And as that kind of cleans up and helps you grow, it really creates space for more things to be unpacked, right? A lot of us live in such a cluttered mess in our minds and in our hearts, and we try and do way too many things at the same time, right? I even found that with my social media. I haven't been on a live in over 2 months or so now, because I've really felt like I've needed to kind of bring my focus down to 1 or 2 things at a time. I overwhelmed myself and I tried to go in 6 different directions, and I failed because I was trying to run a Discord. I was going on TikTok Live, making TikTok content, starting YouTube, writing a book, starting to speak in schools. And suddenly I was only going 30% in every one of these directions. And so none of them were going anywhere. And so now I've got to try to bring that focus down into something that I'm strong at, something that I want to see for myself, something that I can work on over the next few months, focus on that. And then once I've accomplished what I want to accomplish there, then I can look up and see what else I need to do. What's the best thing that you can do if you can't afford therapy? Well, I do have a really great journaling book that I published. It's on Amazon. It has 69 questions that can kind of help you kind of ask yourself some things that maybe you haven't asked before. It's a really great place to start, and it's only $16. So that can really open up a few new doors in your mind and in your heart. So that's available for you. Also, I think that a lot of times the best therapy is through experience, because once again, we can just unpack things and sit and kind of like continue to isolate ourselves. But it's like, what is one thing that you want to be better at? What is one thing that you want to change in your life? And it doesn't matter what it is. Pick something. You want to start keeping your room clean? You want to start working on your physical fitness? Choose one thing that you'd like to see change in the next 6 months, and then just focus on that. Focus on that and really try to delete your attention from too many other things. And this becomes your main focus. This becomes like the priority of your life. You start to build your life around this goal, right? And all of a sudden you will see so many other things begin to change in your mind and in your heart. And I think that that is such a beautiful form. Like, you have to go out and do stuff, right? That's where you really learn about yourself. That's where you really test yourself, right? So those are my two biggest ways, is like journaling, so you can kind of work on how you communicate with yourself and find better language and better questions and better answers, so you can also communicate with other people better. And then also just choose something that you want to do and do it. I forgot how sore my neck gets when I go on lives. I'm sitting here just like sitting like a bird with my head sticking out. Get like pigeon neck. Starting to grow one of those lumps on the back of my spine. You know, those growths that people get. Like, if you have too much of a forward head posture, it starts to like calcify your bone up there or something. TikTok really disenfranchised me. Is that the right word? I've become disenchanted with TikTok. I think it really, even social media in general, really started to take over too much of my life, where I felt like I needed to be productive every single day. I need to post a video. I need to be this. It was too much, and I was taking on too much. And I was having a hard time even being present in my friendships and in my personal life. That's, you know, and I'm still feeling the repercussions of that. I don't really feel like I'm fully there. I feel like I need to be at home working on something. I need to be producing something. I need to be thinking of a new strategy, of a new thing that I need to do in order to become, take my business off the ground, etc. Like, pump the brakes, man. I base so much of my self-worth on performance and success. I really believe that if I'm not successful, then I'm not worth love. I truly believe that in my heart, and it's something that I'm really trying to unravel from myself. It's really difficult to. But yeah, that's always been probably my hardest struggle, is always thinking that I'm not doing enough and I'm not successful enough, and so therefore I'm not worth love. I can't be. I'm a failure as a son. I'm a failure as a future father. I'm a failure as a brother. I'm a failure as a friend. And I almost have come to this point where I have isolated myself so much from relationships, and it's like I believe in my mind, like, once I have the level of success that I want, then I will actually be able to be better in my relationships. But until then, I'm kind of useless, and people can't look up to me, and people can't respect me, and I will never be enough. And that, I know it's all in here, and it's not true, right? But I think the biggest thing that I've learned is really trying to, I've been saying this all throughout this live, is trying to choose one direction and walk towards it. Because I think what happens a lot of times when we're limiting ourselves, we're choosing too many different things at once, and we're also choosing the wrong things. Those are our two ways to keep us where we are, where we feel safe, and not stepping into any unknown, and not pushing up against the possible failure of those limits. And so, yeah, that's been me for most of my life. I need to be everything to everyone. I need to do all of these things all at the same time. And I wanted to stop getting on the internet and just talking about it as well. I wanted to go out and start living more along what it is that I truly believe in for people, what I actually want to see other people do. Because I can sit on here and tell you guys, like, yeah, do this, this is what I know is like best practice, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, am I practicing best practice? Right? So that's why, like, for the last up until last month or so, I was mostly focused on finances and jiu-jitsu. And right now my main focus is on monetizing my YouTube and jiu-jitsu. So those are the two things that I'm quite consistent with throughout my week. And those are the things that I'm really working on towards progressing. So, and I've come so much further, so much faster by just choosing two things and making those two things kind of the focal points of my current ambitions. Oh, thank you for that comment. It means a lot. Yeah. It can be hard sometimes to open up, but I've really found that is probably the best way. Like, that's the best way that I've learned from people. So that's the only way that I've been able to relate with some people, is when they've shown me a little bit of what they've struggled with and what they're afraid of. Like, if they're just come across as infallible and invincible and they have all the answers and they don't have any struggles, I can't relate. That's not human. Yeah, social media is such an interesting animal, because the amount of validation and dopamine that comes from your phone almost begins to make real life relationships obsolete, because real life relationships require a lot more time and effort, and there's a lot more risk, and there's a lot more lulls. But social media is constant validation, constant dopamine. It keeps you up here the whole time. Your relationship with all of these people through your phone is far more stimulating for your brain than to sit down and chat with somebody and make plans with somebody and hang out. So I think it's wreaking havoc on our brains in that way. I know it's affected me. What do I think about big age gaps in relationships? I'm not a fan. 9 times out of 10, it can work. There are some relationships that are based in healthy dynamics that have an age gap, but most of the time I don't really think that they're typically a healthy relationship. What's a good age range or age difference? For the man to be a few years older than the woman. I think the statistics for the most relationships that are successful, the man is 2 to 3 years older. That's like, but I don't really understand all of the numbers behind these stats. It's just like, that's a generalized statistic. What's the correlation? What's the causation, et cetera, et cetera. I think one of the reasons for having a couple years difference in age gap, for the most part, like if I'd really generalize it for you, most of the time women are more attracted to a man who has a little bit more ability to show her the world, Aladdin style. You know what I mean? Where he has a little bit more money, he's a little bit more established, he has a little bit more knowledge of the world, so she can sit and be more of a passenger princess in the relationship. A lot of times women don't like teaching a man how to live. And so if he's got a few more years of life experience that has allowed him to learn a few more things and be a little more stable in his career and figure a few more things out, so he's going to come across as more mature and more knowledgeable, etc., right? Those are some of the big reasons why, women are going to be attracted to a guy who's got a couple more years of life experience. In my last video on YouTube, I did give a scathing review of the sprinkle content. So if that interests you, you can go and get your controversy itch scratched